Hello and welcome to DY's surprise special draw set or surprise ticket recommendation video. As usual this is the first one, so there is no usual, but anyways, I'll be going over all the new characters that have been introduced into this ticket, as well as any rebalanced or updated characters since the last one, and I'll also be talking about the next Guild War specific characters. Now, an important thing to mention about this surprise ticket is that it expires on August 18th, 2023. So, this covers Flash Gala for this month. And since currently we're getting a lot of free pulls, and chances are you should have some of these limited time draw tickets, which expire on August 19th, which you will be most likely using in Flash. Don't use it on 3%, please. So since you'll be using these tickets there, I would strongly recommend that you save your surprise ticket until after you've used all your pulls on Flash. Because you don't want to ticket something and then pull it later on from the gacha. That's one of the worst feelings in Granblue. So, wait until the last day to use the ticket. It goes without saying that priority number one is always picking a character or a summon that you really want. You'll just have more fun with the game that way. But, since I don't know what you want, and I don't know what I want sometimes, this video will be more of a meta-analysis. Since this involves real-life money, I will be a bit harsher with my assessment of certain characters, so just because they're not mentioned does not mean they're a bad character or anything like that. It's just, do I personally think it's worth 3,000 MOBA coins? I will also personally always rate manual burst characters that enable new setups a bit higher than full auto characters, because most of the time full auto characters you can switch for another one, and the worst thing that will happen is that you get a slightly slower time. Even though I'm using tier maker here, this isn't necessarily meant to be a tier list, it's just separating characters into visually clear categories. Alright, without further ado, let's get right into it. First up, we have Melissabelle, a character that has received an FLB or full limit break recently. Melissabelle previous to this wasn't really used, and after her update she became a bit more updated for 2023 standards. If you have Earth Cerise, the SSR version, you'll find that Melissabelle functions quite similar to that character. She does a lot of skill damage and also has a way to tank damage as well. In Wind, there's a lot of synergy with skill damage since we have access to Iwia's Beak, which is a great skill damage weapon. Ultimately, Melissabelle is an okay character, but she's not really necessary for any form of content. So, I'll put her in this one and we'll name this category Nothing Notable. Next up, we have Caro, one of Wind's tuning support characters. Caro is a character that becomes stronger the more tuning stacks there are on the enemy, so therefore in longer FAs he'll have more time to shine. He's also been seen in some Siegfried setups, so if you're not running the skill damage setup or if you're not running the alternate Naru setup, then he might be a good character to pick up. Since he's a character that fulfills a niche but it isn't fully unique, I'll put him in this category here, which I will call okay units, but probably not needed. Alright, next up we have Cantate. Cantate is a character that released alongside Caro and synergizes with him too. Overall, it can be fun to make a tuning team with something like Caro, Neo level 130 and higher, and Sylphira, but that's about where it ends. She does some skill nukes, including some auto-cast ones. She also inflicts tuning, of course, and has a little bit of sustain. Mostly full auto, doesn't really have a place elsewhere at the moment. So I will be putting her in the Nothing Notable category. Alright, next up we have Lily. Wind Lily has a lot of parallels with her water version. She's a defensive character that has a way to auto-cast her healing skill, which clears with debuffs. She also has some crest generation and is able to dispel a lot of buffs from the enemy if she has 5 crests. Overall, in Granblue, most of the time, offensive characters or buffing characters tend to have a little bit more value over niche defensive ones, and unfortunately that is the case for Lily as well. There's not really much content for her. Maybe she'll see some use in harder Nightmare full autos in the upcoming Guild War, but that's about it. And chances are, if you have characters like Granblue or level 130 plus Neo, you might not need her defensive capabilities as well. As a result, I will be putting her in the nothing notable category. Next up, we have Fire Icarus. Icarus is a character that is very much a selfish attacker. He has ways to buff himself and doesn't really provide much utility to the team. For intermediate or newer accounts, he will be able to provide very strong buffs for himself, so you don't really need too much support from the grid. And if you have a way to bring him in from the backline, he will be able to immediately get 5 crests for himself, which is a big power boost because otherwise you will need some time to ramp up his skills. He's a full auto character that can have some use, perhaps in certain raids where you are able to trigger his passive really quickly so you can get him online really fast. As a result, I'll be putting him with a Caro over here. Alright, so we have Water Korwa next. Water Korwa is a character that functions similarly to her summer version in that she has a stack management system for her skills rather than a cooldown. Unlike her summer version, however, her S1 is not universally as good. Currently, even though she's clearly designed for a manual auto attack burst set, she's had some trouble breaking into the meta teams. Many of the current tests show that she doesn't improve damage by that much compared to her competition. However, if you are a water main, especially someone with Hrisvelga, it is probably a good idea to have her as a backup character, because with Guild War normally comes new setups. So we'll create a new category for her over here, and we'll say get if covering options. Next up, we have Drusilla. Drusilla is a character who has unfortunately not been seen too much. She possesses a skill that is somewhat similar to Summer Illnot, albeit it provides a lower value. Overall, her best skill is her skill 1, which provides triple attack and bonus damage to the party. However, in Light, there is insane competition in characters like Nehan, Mugen, Ferry, to name a few. So where she would be good is some short burst rotations like Nightmare 95, but the competition is way too fierce. So unfortunately she has to go in the nothing notable category up here. Finally, we have the last permanent character to be introduced into this Suptix, which is Fire Baal. Baal is a character who possesses a lot of skill damage and also has a way to generate charge attacks and hype for the team as well. He has some synergy with his primal pals, since he's a primal himself, and his other primal friends tend to use skill damage also. Unfortunately, Baal does not possess the primal pal's passive, which means that while the rest of his team can be multi-attacking, you might find that Baal is single attacking more often than you want, so that can be a little annoying at times. While he is pretty much a full auto exclusive character, he does provide a decent amount of damage in that sort of setup, so I'll put him in this category over here. Okay unit, but probably not needed. Alright, so next up, you might be thinking, hey, DY, Winter Guild War's coming up soon. Are there any characters that I might need? So this section is for you. Firstly, I want to talk about Petra. Petra is a character that provides respectable buffs for the team. If you're missing Andira, Granblue, or Neo 130 or above, she can be a decent filler character until you get one of those other characters. And on top of that, she can be quite useful in OTK as well. Petra has a passive which allows her to autocast her skill if the enemy does a special attack. So she can be quite useful in reducing some buttons or chains in your OTK setups. So with that being said, I'll be putting Petra into this category here, which will be Wind, OTK, or FA. And speaking of OTK, another character that performs extremely well there is Elea. She's currently the best option if you are running a charge attack OTK setup. So if you're trying to lower your number of chains and you don't have Elea, she might be the key to enabling that. With NM200 taking a focus in Guild War, we've seen Ogi-centric teams take more of the spotlight, especially if you don't have the most meta options available to you. Elea is a character that performs quite well in a charge attack focused team, however there isn't as much grid support for wind charge attack focused teams compared to the other elements. So it is unclear until NM200 comes out whether we'll be using something like a charge attack focused team or whether it will be more of a skill damage focused team, because Wind has a lot of support for skill damage. Elea also has some uses in solo Belial, since she has a delay that is activated on her charge attack, so you are not proccing Belial's counter. With all these usages combined, I will put Elea in the same category as Petra. I didn't say HL here, but you guys get the idea. Alright, next I'd like to talk about Demonbream. Demonbream is a summon that is quite prevalent in Wind Burst setups at the moment. However, this summon is not usable at anything less than full limit break. It is not good at 0 stars, not good at 1 star, not good at 2 star, not good at 3 star. It must be full limit break 4 stars. If you're in a position where you are 1 copy off of Demonbream being maxed, you can consider it. If you're not in that position, I would probably recommend against tixing this summon. Generally, using stones on this summon is not recommended since it's a permanent summon, unless you're heavily investing in Wind, especially for Guild War. I'll put Demonbream in this category here, which I will name Wind Burst. Now finally, out of the Wind options, I would like to talk about Sho. Sho himself is a decent full auto character. He can be used for shorter burst setups too, because he provides a lot of echo and has a way to give himself guaranteed triple attacks, which makes it very consistent. He has some survivability tools too, so you'll find that even in longer FAs, he survives surprisingly long. However, the real reason that you might pick Sho for your surprise ticket is for his weapon, Destiny Knuckles. Destiny Knuckles is an extremely powerful weapon and actually part of the Zephyrus Primal Burst grid. You need 2 copies minimum for this weapon, and you can even use it in Magna grids. In Magna grids, you don't need it higher than 0 star, it gives Bloodshed at 0 star, which is its most important weapon mod. And in Primal grids, you can use it as 0 star as well, but obviously you would like to uncap it there. For these reasons, I'll be putting Sho with Petra and Elea in this category, and Destiny Knuckles with Demonbream in the Wind Burst category. Alright, so finally I'd like to talk about some permanent characters that aren't necessarily new to this Suptix, but generally good options to have. Most, if not all of these characters have enabled some sort of setup in the past, so that's why they're particularly noteworthy for me. I'll name this category Existing Solid Characters. So first up, I'll talk about Skull and Balurga. This character was used last Guild War for OTK setups and also NM95 setups. Outside of that, their full auto is similar to that of Sho and Fire UECs. They have a way to cut their HP, get a lot of benefits when they're low HP, and they have a lot of survivability skills that help them not get knocked out. Next up, we have Earth Satyr, who outside of auto attack focused setups has been incredibly useful. She provides incredible charge attack buffs for the team, and also has amazing utility for HL raids or harder content such as NM200 full autos. She's in general an amazing unit to have on your team if you aren't using an auto attack focused build. Next up, we have Water Zeta. Water Zeta is a character that is used in OTK due to her unworldly charge attack, but outside of that, she is used in many burst setups due to her being able to provide echoes passively to the team. Next up, another character who is part of the Water Burst setup is Erika. Erika is solely used for the purpose of getting more damage out of your team at the cost of extra buttons. Therefore, she's very useful for something like Super Baja Execute with her Svelga, or for NM150 or NM200 rotations with her Svelga. And in the previous Guild War, Erika was used alongside Gwynne for 150 setups. And speaking of Gwynne, Gwynne is a character that enables something new for the manual burst setup. If you have her Svelga, you do not need this character. So if you're looking to do some water burst but you don't want to buy her Svelga, Gwynne is probably your best bet. And next up we have a Light Ferry. Light Ferry is a character that was used quite extensively in the Light Guild War, especially in NM95 setups. She's also a character that can be used in off-Elea Falsehood Opus main hand OTKs. Overall, she's a character that is quite useful in shorter rotations for Light. And speaking of shorter rotations, Yo is another character who performs very well in those sorts of situations. She's good in OTK and she's good for NM95. She's also been used for things like Go HL farming. She can be quite frail, so if you're looking for a full auto character, this probably isn't it. And next up we have Bowman. Bowman's a character who clicks no buttons, so is incredibly useful for OTKs and low button setups like 95. He's also used in Akasha farming. Bowman's overall a very solid pick for things like full auto as well. The only place where Bowman really isn't used is in harder difficulty raids. And finally we have one character who I'm mentioning for one reason, and one reason only. It's Tikoh. She gives you a blue pot. That's it. If you have another blue pot character like Summer Tikoh or Halloween Charlotta, you don't need her. Now, outside of the characters I've mentioned here, as always, there are some decent summon picks in the surprise ticket. You are able to pick primals, so if you're looking to go primal in a certain element, this is one of the ways to guarantee that you get that summon. Dragon summons are also available here, which are useful for very similar reasons. And finally, the Echo Summon series is another generally good overall pick to get. Some summons are used much more than others, so make sure you research some setups before committing to one of these summons. As mentioned near the start of the video, I just want to reiterate, please hold your surprise tickets until the last day, because we will have Flash and everybody will be pulling on Flash with the summon limited tickets, and you don't want to pull something you ticketed. So please wait till the last day. But other than that, I hope this video was helpful in helping you choose what to get for the Suptix. If you have any questions, leave them down below or come by the Twitch stream. That's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye bye.